Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk about a few different topics, all of which are kind of related to ethics in the young adult book world. The first of which is related to the whole James Frey Full Fathom 5 controversy. This was a hot topic a few years ago when his book Endgame: The Calling came out, but I've been thinking about it since then. If you don't know, Full Fathom 5 is a publishing company, some call it a fiction factory. It's owned by James Frey, who you've probably heard of. He's had quite a few controversies on his own, but he has started this company. James Frey is also known by his pseudonym Pittacus Lore, under which he published the I Am Number 4 / Lorien Legacies series. But James Frey wasn't really the only writer of that series. An aspiring writer named Joby Hughes was hired by Frey to write the books, or help write them, depending on who you ask, and he wouldn't actually be given any of the credit. And this is how a lot of Full Fathom 5's books work. Full Fathom 5 gives their writers a contract which states they will receive a $250 advance, possibly followed by another $250 when the book is completed, and then they will receive up to 40% of the profits of the revenue from TV and movie deals and merchandise and those sorts of things. So the amount the author is paid is dependent on how popular the book becomes. This isn't typical of the book world at all. From the research I did, the average book advance is anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, and most of the time there is some kind of clause in the contract which says the author receives an additional percentage or an amount of money per book sold on top of their advance. So the Full Fathom 5 contracts are ridiculously unfair if you compare the $5,000 to $20,000 advance to the $250 advance. And on top of this, the authors don't often get credit for their own work. It happened with the Lorien Legacies series. I think this Joby Hughes guy actually quit after he got upset that he wasn't getting any recognition. This thing is also happening with James Frey's Endgame series. I'll insert a picture, but on the cover you can see the James Frey's name is big on the front cover, and then under his name there's a little line that says the other author's name. So in this case the other author is credited, but their name is so tiny and no one's going to pay attention to it. And a lot of their writers, even the few who are credited, don't actually own the rights to their own books. At other publishing companies, you get to keep the rights to your book, you own the copyright, it's just that the publishing company distributes it. And that doesn't really happen here. If you look on the copyright page of a Full Fathom 5 book, it usually has Full Fathom 5 under the copyright. A few other books published by Full Fathom 5 include Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page, and a book called No One Else Can Have You by Kathleen Hale. And that book leads me into my next point, and that is separating the art from the artist. So in 2014, Hale wrote an article for The Guardian called Am I Being Catfished? An author confronts her #1 online critic. In this article, she talks about reading reviews of her book on Goodreads, as she does normally, she says, and on this occasion she saw one that she did not like. It started out as, F this, I think this book is awfully written and offensive, its execution in regards to all aspects is horrible and honestly non-existent. And then it went on to talk about other things she didn't like, and she told other people not to read it because she didn't like it. And Hale says this review was really offensive to her and it made her angry. So she starts basically cyberstalking this reviewer and finds that this reviewer has left negative reviews of other books in the past. You would think that a reviewer, like I think this woman was a professional reviewer, you would think that this kind of person has the right to voice their opinions and leave negative reviews if they feel that it's right, but Hale obviously disagreed. She spoke to some other authors who had received negative reviews from this particular reviewer, and they all said the same thing, that it upset them, but they just got over it, and they advised Hale to do the same. But Hale did not get over it. Hale says that this reviewer started launching personal attacks towards her, and it just started escalating, and it got to the point where Hale was so upset that she literally rented a car, found this reviewer's address, and drove to her house. and she tried to confront her, but she either didn't answer the door or she wasn't there. And throughout this article, it seems like Hale is trying to make the readers feel bad for her, like, oh, poor her, she received a negative review on a book and then stalked someone. So this article made a lot of people upset, and people started to boycott her books. Another author, Orson Scott Card, is very popular. He wrote Ender's Game, which is a great sci-fi book, and he's known for being pretty homophobic. And so when this became public, when a lot of people started to recognize this, they started to just not read his books. They started to boycott his books. So the last issue I want to get into briefly is Ghostwriting. A popular YouTube personality named Zoella wrote a series of young adult books called Girl Online, and it was revealed maybe right after the first book was published, that she did not actually write the books herself. She came up with the idea supposedly, and then a ghostwriter wrote them for her and just gave all the credit to Zoella. Zoella never actually denied that this happened, but she kind of made some jokes and poked fun at the whole issue. And a lot of people got really upset that she hadn't actually written it, and they decided they weren't going to read it because of this. Even though she technically didn't do anything wrong, because ghostwriting, I mean, there are professional ghostwriters out there who do this for a living, and it's not like she stole someone's work or something. It's just that the audience felt like they were being lied to. So the point to this video is just to discuss these ethical quandaries that come with reading young adult books. Should we boycott them even if they sound interesting and like something we'd want to read? Some people, like myself, have just kind of decided to either get these books secondhand or get them from the library if I don't feel comfortable with supporting the author, like Orson Scott Card or someone like that. I think in the case of Kathleen Hale, I actually had her book out from the library when I read this article, and I just got so upset that I returned it without reading it. And above all else, I think it's important to become informed about these types of issues and decide for yourself whether these books are worth reading or boycotting or finding a way to read them without supporting the author. These subjects are really tough and subjective, and there are a lot of different sides to every story, and in most of these cases, except the Kathleen Hale one, I don't think the author technically did anything wrong. I mean, I don't agree with Orson Scott Card, and I'm not exactly comfortable with ghostwriting, and Full Fathom 5, while awful, is technically legal, so I don't know. It's a hard thing to decide. So do you think these things are worth boycotting or reading? I'll leave a few links in the comments below to the Guardian article and maybe some articles about James Frey and Orson Scott Card and the Zoella ghostwriting thing if you're interested in reading them, because I just kind of dealt with the highlights of these issues. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!